If you hear any random tiny noises, we have a mouse problem that has for a while now been a mice problem. And my partner keeps buying traps that don't work because we don't know anybody with a cat we can borrow. So we just have to keep on going. I can't make a TLDR for today's video because it is in actuality 99% context and 1% in the words of the incomparable Amber Ruffin getting mad like it's 1980. And the context is only given because while I personally don't go in for target audiences, I appear to currently mainly reach my own generation, and I cannot rely on my whole generation knowing what I'm talking about here. I know I'm that much of a weirdo outlier, a Spider's Georg, if you will, that I know of all these things separately. I have no idea if anybody else has ever connected them all. Ever since Netflix has stopped the DVD in the mail thing that was their whole ass selling point, it's virtually impossible to get a hold of specific titles, much less specific editions of same, unless one buys them. And even when I do have the money, I simply do not, for the foreseeable future, have the space to buy up every title I like enough to have a physical copy of. So I'm not going to apologize for not having the physical copy of Blues Brothers. I would need to even check for the answer to my burning question. I even have a video whose raison d'etre is a DVD bonus feature, which goes to show. I've done an internet search and I've gone with a fine-tooth comb through its IMDb trivia page, so I've otherwise done my due diligence. Please, for the love of God, if you know the answer to my question, let me know. But first, the context. If you're an English-speaking millennial, you probably remember the show Jake and Josh. If you're a Zoomer, it's likelier that you'll remember iCarly, and you might remember that the girl who played Carly played Megan on Drake and Josh. If you're Gen Alpha, you would know that Sam and Cat was a spin-off of iCarly, but you might not have ever seen an episode of Drake and Josh. And if you're younger, you might not even know about iCarly, but you would know that Ariana Grande played Cat. I hate how we've invented the term micro-generations because now I sound like a grandma when discussing something that happened just 20 years ago. It's like explaining the origins of Pedro Navaja, but with products of far inferior quality. Everybody ought to listen to the Three Penny Opera at least once in their lives. I wouldn't blame anyone for not knowing about Drake and Josh.
That, needless to say, is the Moritat, today known as Mac the Knife. Oh, the shark has pretty teeth here, and he shows them very white.
Look out, don't lie to Linda and Miss Lucy Brown.
Me chi messer sa qualcosa, ma non parla e beve gin.
You know Mac the Knife? Oh, the shark bites with such teeth he did, and he shows them pearly white. Just a jackknife as old Mac he did, and he keeps it out of sight. Bueno, that's not the tune you're gonna hear. Por la esquina del viejo barrio lo vi pasar.
Though if you're here, you're probably online enough that you at least know the memes that are still kicking around. Running over Oprah, I ain't calling you a truther, Megan. So, you just might remember an episode called Blues Brothers, where the titular characters, teenage boys in the 2000s for reference, wear suits and sunglasses indoors and have to sing on stage. The reference wasn't meant to be recognizable to the children. It was a straightforward homage to a damn fine movie that the older folks would appreciate, and that would in all likelihood introduce said movie to said children. And so despite all the horror stories that are coming out now about that era, I'm still happy we have The Amanda Show and all that, and Kenan and Kel, and at least this episode of Drake and Josh. Not least because at the time the movie came out, 1980, theaters in the American South straight up refused to show it because it simply had too many black people in it. I know, right? Black musicians in 1980? Groundbreaking. See now, children, back in the day. People who made movies and TV for kids and teenagers had to appeal to the grown-ups in the room as well as to the target audience. And a byproduct of that was that those media grow with you. You're not meant to understand them completely the first time around, not because grown-ups are superior to you, but because it's healthy for you to be interested in complex, layered topics you can look forward to understanding more fully as you grow older because you're never done learning. This is part of why grown-ups love Bluey but not Paw Patrol. One of those bears rewatching, and one does not. But while we're here, does anybody else remember that moment when they tried to make Miranda Cosgrove into a pop singer? It was like when Paris Hilton came out with Stars Are Blind, but worse. Because I looked up the latter song recently, and it's still melodically comfy and lyrically clever, whereas the first line of Kissin' You is Sparks Fly, it's like electricity. It's jarring in the same way as in the first few minutes of The Mummy when you hear about Pharaoh's mistress. That an ancient Egyptian pharaoh has a mistress. And you realize, oh, I meant to turn my brain off. Sparks Fly. It has the same dumb energy as Shine Bright Like a Diamond, even though they're on opposite ends of a spectrum, because on one hand, sparks literally are electricity, and then on the other, diamonds do not shine, they reflect. The more you know. I don't believe in target audiences, and definitely not as the end-all be-all that marketing gurus make them out to be. But there is by now a generational gap, nearly 2 when going by the actual definition of a generation, which is an average of 25 years, in what audiences can be expected to pick up on. The humor still works perfectly, and most of the musicians are big enough legends that they're still immediately recognizable to the general public, but some have gotten a touch obscure. And perhaps the most obscure, tragically, because I have a great affection for him, is the topic of today's video, Steve Lawrence, who played Maurice Line. The Man in the Towel. Love him. As I said, no one needs explaining why anyone ought to know James Brown, or Aretha Franklin, or even Cad Calloway.
She messed around with a bloke named Smokey. She loved him though he was cokey.
But why and how do I know Steve Lawrence? Por su esposa, como no?
Me importas tú, y solamente tú, me importas tú, y nadie más que tú.
I don't know how famous they were as a duo in their day, in the US at least, certainly enough to release multiple albums as such, but Eydie Gormé is still remembered and loved in the Spanish-speaking community, and Steve Lawrence, if nothing else, was her husband. It's always sad when husband-wife duos become obscure when they were really good, so here's to keeping their memory going that much longer. My other such favorite is Mary Healy. Not Mary Healy, Mary Healy, and Peter Lind Hayes. I know them from Dr. Seuss's only movie, The 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T.
What fabulous weather for loping and leaping.
What fabulous weather for bipping and beeping.
For snipping and snupping and snooping and sneeping.
What fabulous weather, oy vey, what a day. Come on, the weatherman's announcing that the weather's right for flouncing and for bouncing. This is get together, weather together is just what we got to get.
But apparently they had a hit comedy single, Crazy Mixed Up Song, also known as Be Kind to Your Web-Footed Friends. If you've never heard it, you might love it, might hate it. No apologies for this earworm if you already knew it and don't like it, because I love it.
Be kind to your web-footed friends. For a duck, maybe somebody's mother. Be kind to the denizen of the swamp. He's a dilly through and through. You may think that this is the end. Well, it isn't, 'cause there is another chorus.
My partner, the Gen Xer, the one who taught me that Michigan J. Frog is in fact doing a Rudy Valet impression. The frog doesn't sound like Cher. He sounds like that guy who used to sing through a megaphone. Gen X. They're not old, but they're old enough. I knew about Bugs Bunny only eating carrots because of Clark Gable, and it happened one night because I love me some black and white movies, but I had never even heard of Rudy Valet. I was like, do you mean Rudy Valentino? And he was like, no, I do not. Looked at me like, well, obviously, when I asked him recently if he knew who Eydie Gormé was, even though he wasn't expecting me to recognize Steve Lawrence, the way he was downright worried I wouldn't recognize James Brown. James Brown! With his hair all conked up. My partner, the silly Billy. And yet, he didn't know, or at least remember, that Eydie and Steve were married to each other. Bizarre. Side note, is remembering the existence and names of people's partners and kids more of a socialized as female thing or just common politeness? Because where I come from, it's the latter, but I didn't even notice until recently that several male friends blink at me when I ask after a mutual friend's loved ones, and I'm like, you've met this wife and kid twice, my guy. I was there both times. So, the only context you might need if you haven't yet seen this movie is that many of the cast are musicians, but nobody's character is like teased as a musician and then never performs. The closest to that kind of thing is somebody making a Miss Piggy joke to Frank Oz, the voice actor, whose character isn't comedic as such and has about a minute of screen time max. That's it. Otherwise, everyone is either performing when we meet them or performs at some point before the movie ends. Except Steve Lawrence, the only singer who never sings. Steve Lawrence, the man who had to change his natural singing style because he sounded too much like Sinatra, so he was somehow stepping on Sinatra's toes. Oh, what a tragedy.
When you are near me like this, you're much too hard to resist. So go away, little girl, before I beg you to stay.
Never sang one of his big hits, and had someone ask him if anybody had ever told him he sounds like Sinatra, never even whistled a little something and made somebody be like, where do I know that song from? In a movie where everybody the fuck else sings their big real-life hit, so it can't even be a case of the rights costing too much, that maketh not the sense, and do you know it? Oh yes, the title. Well, Chekhov once said that if a gun shows up in Act 1, it has to go off by Act 2. In other words, as the writer, you know perfectly well when giving exposition and mise-en-scène what expectations you're raising in the audience, and you must needs address them. You don't have to meet them. You can subvert them or lampshade them all you want, but you can't just ignore them and sit there shrugging at the audience like, what expectations? And that's the equivalent here. Chekhov writing a character who walks on holding a gun, never putting it down, fucking gesturing with it, and the play ending without it ever going off, and without anybody even acknowledging the presence of the gun. In everything else, this movie is a glorious and joyful example of screwball comedy, except for this. It has a great and wonderful plot that's not meant to be realistic. It's meant to be stretched and then stretched further, and then, spoiler alert for a 40-year-old movie, it never breaks, because unlike in Airheads, the heroes are given no light at the end of the tunnel, just the glories of Varrock to console them for life with no time off for good behavior. So while it otherwise follows all the rules of comedy in general, and Screwball in particular, and diegetic and non-diegetic musicals, Steve Lawrence, in a non-singing role, undercuts it completely. It sounds like the dumbest of conspiracy theories, but it sticks out like a sore thumb, and it's never explained or even mentioned in-universe, so instead of a moment of fridge logic, you're slowly going mad throughout the movie. You start out pointing like Leo DiCaprio and end up looking for Pepe Sylvia. All the chaos of the different Clue endings at different theaters, but with none of the intention. 10 out of 10, no notes. Go watch it now.